Hello and welcome to the Global News Relay 2022, hosted here at Leeds Trinity University in the north of England. I'm Grace McGrory.
And I'm Will Cole. This year our theme is mental health. 2 years of living through a pandemic has taken its toll on not just our physical health, but our mental health as well.
Yes, it's been a difficult time for everyone. Isolation, disrupted education and work, Zoom fatigue, and of course dealing with the illness itself.
So join us for the next little while as we bring you stories of the triumphs and struggles from across the world. This year, 8 universities have come together to produce Mind Matters.
We'll hear about marriage proposals in Israel, quarantine in China, and skateboarding in the US.
And we'll hear about how sleep patterns have changed during the pandemic in India, how singing is helping students with their mental health in England, and how gardening relieves stress right here in Leeds.
And to start this year's Global News Relay, we begin right here with our colleagues at Leeds Trinity University in the United Kingdom.
Hello and welcome to Mind Matters, this year's edition of the Global News Relay. I'm Ella Bicknell.
And I'm Erin Carney. Thanks for joining us here at Leeds Trinity University in the United Kingdom. This special edition will be looking into the rise of mental health issues following 2 years of the pandemic.
On today's programme, with waiting times for mental health treatment growing, recovery runners are one group taking matters into their own hands.
5 years on from the Manchester terror attack, concert goers from the night are still struggling with their mental health.
I would have never imagined that after that night it would affect my mental health the way it has.
And Leeds-based DJs are raising money for suicide prevention charities through music and sport.
The pandemic has led to a rise in mental health issues for people across the world. But in England, waiting lists for mental health services keep getting longer. Many people have used regular exercise as a way to improve their well-being during this time.
Recovery Runners is a running club in Leeds. For them, exercise has shaped a crucial part of their journey to recovery from addiction. Our reporter, Grace McGrory, met with the group.
Recovery Runners Running Club was founded in January 2021 by recovering alcoholics Jamie Heselden and Dean Smith, who know firsthand the importance that running can have on supporting recovery and improving mental health. The group meet every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Glass Box at Leeds Dock and offer a variety of routes for their members, with chats and cups of tea also on hand. As the group put it, they aim to heal souls with souls.
In July, Dean said he were doing a virtual half marathon before we got the Glass Box, and he was doing it down at Rodley. I said, come along. I think Martin said, come along. And I said, I can't do half a marathon, I can only do 10k. So I said, I'll do 12k before Sunday, and if I can do 15 on Sunday, I'll be really pleased with myself. So I went down and I ended up carried on. I realised I'd done 10k. So I realised I was halfway there because we had to come back. So I just carried on going. I love it. You just get all those, I call them dolphins in your head, you know, the endorphins, and you just feel a buzz, you know. And it's great going out with these guys because we're all in it together. We've all, you know, I'm recovering alcoholic. I've been in fellowship for 6 years, and I've been recovering for 6 years, and it just helps you get through difficult times. You know, like I told you, my partner passed away 2 years ago in a really tragic accident, and it's helped me get through it as running.
It's just got bigger and bigger. We've been new people coming from drugs, alcohol, mental health, you know, eating disorders, gambling disorders, all what's under the same umbrella, you know, really, with the mental health situation, and it's just got bigger, and we've loved it, you know. But people come and you think, oh, you just got to run. You don't. You can come down, just have a, you know, a chat and a brew with us. Sounds so. We aren't doctors or counsellors, but we're just good listeners. And when you're with same-minded people, it's, you know, it all goes down well.
With a love for running uniting the members of Recovery Runners, They always manage to keep a smile on their faces.
The past 2 years have left many people struggling financially. For some, this has meant putting food on the table has been more difficult than ever before. According to a recent report, supermarket prices rose by 9% in 2021 and are expected to keep on rising. This is likely to hit people on low incomes the hardest.
More people are relying on food banks in the UK, leaving many feeling stressed and lonely. Rainbow Junction Cafe in Leeds is a food bank, but it also provides mental health support and creates a community for users. We spoke to Emily Carrigan, one of the shift leaders for the cafe.
The last 2 years have been really difficult, obviously, with the pandemic, and then with the universal credit cards, and then now with the cost of living, especially the energy hike. We're seeing a lot of stress about people worrying about feeding their family, heating their homes. It shows every day on the faces of the customers. It's really upsetting.
It's been almost 5 years since the terror attack on a concert venue in the north of England. 22 people lost their lives when a homemade shrapnel bomb was detonated at the Manchester Arena.
Almost 14,000 people were there for an Ariana Grande concert. One survivor opened up about his struggles with his mental health since the attack. Shanine Bruder reports.
Ariana Grande superfan Denver was one of the 14,000 people who attended the concert in Manchester in 2017. He was seated directly above the foyer where Salman Abedi detonated a shrapnel homemade nail bomb as people were leaving the venue. Just moments after the attack, Denver had to evacuate the building, and the terror that he walked into has left what only can be described as unimaginable and painful mental scars.
I bought me and my sister tickets to see Ariana Grande in Manchester in the UK. We were so excited that after finally waiting almost a year, we would finally be able to see her and I would finally see my idol. I remember being in the venue and feeling so happy and excited, but I could have never imagined that after that night it would affect my mental health the way it has. Since that night I have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression, which was a lot for me to deal with at such a young age. I knew I needed support, so I reached out to other survivors on my fan account on Twitter and we formed a support group. We would rely on each other on the anniversaries of the attack, and when we all were ready, we finally returned to the venue to help us get some closure. My sister really supported me too. She watched me turn down so many invites to concerts and events that she decided to take a job at the venue where the attack happened so that I would feel safe returning on my own. I finally returned to the venue to watch one of my favourite groups, Blackpink, and this was a big step in overcoming my mental health, and ever since then I have taken each day as they come and my mental health has finally started to get better. 5 years on and I still struggle day to day. Being in busy places and hearing loud bangs take me right back to that night. But now that I'm older, I realise now more than ever how important your mental health is and how important it is to reach out when you're struggling.
Along with the survivors, the community of Manchester also continues to remember those who sadly lost their lives. In and around the city centre are paintings and memorials of the Manchester Bee, the staple of the city which now signifies a community who stood united in their darkest times to show their support to those who needed it the most.
Thank you, Shanine, for that report. For the last 2 years, high school students have not been able to sit their final exams because of COVID. This year, in-person exams are back, putting pressure on young people.
This is making the whole university application process a very stressful time for students. Our reporter Phoebe Morton spoke to one anxious student about whether she'll enjoy university.
Anna hasn't sat in an exam hall since before the pandemic, when she moved from Italy to Leeds to go to Leeds City College. She is anxious that this lack of preparation and disruption to her college education will affect how she handles university life and worries for her mental health.
The main worrying is the fact that I don't know if I'm gonna try to achieve the best and be stressed all day and have a major anxiety issue, or I can just try and enjoy myself a little bit and just go out.
A government-sponsored programme, Student Space, provides phone, text and web chat support to university students. Trained volunteers can help with mental health and relationship problems.
I think that's one thing that you want to do at uni, just enjoy the experience, but you also come with anxiety, stress and mental health problem that no one wants, but you have to go through eventually if you go to uni.
Hopefully, student space will be extended further as Anna will go to university in September.
Now, not everyone has a house with a garden. For those who don't, the National Allotment Society rents community space for people to grow their own fruit and veg.
The Society reported a boom in applications for plots since the pandemic began. Now, 250,000 people in the UK own an allotment. I met with one gardener who told me how glad he was that allotments were kept open during the pandemic.
As the days are getting longer, allotment gardeners are using these precious moments of daylight to harvest the last of their winter vegetables.
Now, being able to eat your own produce isn't the only benefit to owning yourself a plot like this one. In fact, the University of Sheffield found multiple mental health benefits to owning yourself an allotment, from physical exercise to being at one with nature.
For Phil, his allotment is his home away from home.
I had quite a stressful job actually before the end of my career, and I used to come home from work and I'd come round to my allotment and spend an hour here and just wind down. And I can see it in a lot of people, you know, it's so relaxing. There's no stresses or strains. You just go at your own pace. During the pandemic, it's been a godsend for thousands of people just to be able to come round. And believe it or not, the government actually recognised this and kept them open. It's one of the few things that was kept open during the pandemic.
In the last few years, more and more people have been approaching Phil to get a plot for themselves.
On our site now, we've got, say, a good 50% of our plot holders are either young people or young families with children. We try and cater for them on our site. We have Easter egg hunts for them, you know, make it interesting, scarecrow competitions, and yeah, it's something else.
Whether it's building scarecrows or digging up leaks, allotments continue to provide that perfect escape.
From the sound of birdsong to pounding drum and bass, a new organisation has been set up by local DJs to bring awareness to mental health in the music industry. It's called Healthy Minds.
They've organised music events and a charity football match to raise funds for suicide prevention charities such as the Young Samaritans and Papyrus. Georgia Collins reports.
Local DJs Aidan and Sam have started their own organisation, Healthy Minds, to raise awareness for mental health issues within the music industry.
In the music industry especially, there's so much stigma surrounding mental health, and there's a lot of sort of unidentified issues that people don't really talk about or they don't really understand. And I think for us to be able to raise awareness for that as a brand, but also provide a safe space for people to come and enjoy themselves and kind of let the hair down for a night, it's massive for us. And then obviously the stuff that we do for charity as well, and raising money for charities is quite important too.
Recently we did a football match between our brand and our friends at Barbelo Events. We did a 7-side football match, trying to get some money together for that, and that was a couple of weeks ago. It was basically leading up to our event that we did at District on Friday. It was just like a pre-match get together.
Aidan and Sam have future plans to play at Amsterdam's Spring Break Festival next month, along with hosting sponsored music live streams to raise money for charity.
Georgia Collins reporting on a great new initiative. And that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for joining us.
We hope you've enjoyed our special edition of Global News Relay, Mind Matters. Goodbye.
Well, thank you to all our reporters here at Leeds Trinity. There were some fantastic stories in there. And one of those stories, Grace, was yours, wasn't it? Tell us a little bit about yours.
Yeah, so I reached out to the recovery runners and I thought it was amazing, all the work that they did, especially helping the community. So yeah, I loved it that much, I decided to take a trip the following week, and I actually did a couch to 5K in one day, which I was very proud of. It was very difficult, but yeah, it was amazing, and it was so nice to meet everyone, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, wonderful. Brilliant. Do you think you go back?
I think so, yeah. I'd like to keep working on my stamina, to be honest. I don't want to let it slip now, but yeah, it's something I'd really like to be part of.
Well, next we'll be hearing from Hong Kong Baptist University to find out about the impact the latest variant of COVID-19 has had on the people there, including the effect on their mental health.
Hello and welcome to Hong Kong Baptist University and Global News Relay 2022. I'm Samuel Lee.
And I'm Lokman Yun. This year's theme, Mind Matters, is very appropriate to Hong Kong right now because our city is currently going through a surge in increase of numbers of Omicron COVID infections.
We are experiencing some of the most severe lockdowns, endless rounds of testing, and weeks of quarantine.
Our reporters Phoebe Law and Roy Diego talked to some people who are in isolation because they have been exposed to infected people.
This is Santin COVID Quarantine Center, one of 3 such facilities in Hong Kong. Ceci Lam is on day 4 of her isolation. She actually recovered from COVID in late February and her rapid antigen test results were negative. But a week later, the building where she lived came under compulsory testing. Her family tested positive and all of them, Ceci included, were sent to the camp.
因為我已經好多個禮拜冇返工，真係要好多錢，跟住我媽佢哋都好震驚，好唔開心咯，因為我全家都中晒，咁全家都呢幾個禮拜都冇得返工冇收入啦，驚因為睇新聞睇到啲資環境咧，睇到又浸晒水咁樣，因為我哋唔知最尾嗰刻都唔知隔離有巴車緊我哋去邊個隔離，所以就有啲彷徨嘅感覺啦。
Ceci has to isolate in a cabin with her sister and mother.
爭好遠，因為喺屋企，我同我妹都有各自己一個房間咯。Zoom 咧，有時我哋即係大家一齊開住，因為佢中學都好多堂上，咁我大學都有好多堂上，跟住就可能要用下耳機咁咯，因為唔係就你細聲啲嘅，我要上 Zoom 啦。
Peggy Fong was quarantined at a different camp called Penny's Bay. She was there for 9 days in January because one of her friends caught COVID.
第2日即係星期日啦，就會安排接你入去竹篙灣啦。咁但係咧，佢一直都講唔到係咩時間。我話咁係朝頭早啊，定係即係點啊咁樣。咁一直都冇通知，直到晏晝佢先打嚟就話即係要夜晚around 5、6點呢啲時間先可以接我入去咁樣。咁所以成日就喺度等佢啦，即係一早已經 ready， 因為唔知佢幾時會突然間撳鐘就話嚟㗎啦嘛。咁即係等呢個過程比較即係痛苦咯，即係。
It was kind of chaotic because I was not used to the time zone of Hong Kong yet.
Emily is a French student who arrived in Hong Kong from the UK in late December. She too spent 4 days at Penny's Bay, a requirement for arriving passengers from some countries.
I felt anxious, I think, stressed, and kind of sad because I was far from my family, and at first I was not able to contact them. It's something that I missed a lot. I was scared of what's next.
Dr. Adrian Wong, a clinical psychologist, said when people know that they need to be quarantined, they are most likely to be shocked, anxious, angry, helpless, and irritable. They may also feel overwhelmed and may experience tremors or difficulty breathing. People with emotional disorders are also more likely to have negative reactions, especially if they do not get the support they need. His advice: if you feel uneasy, talk to someone. While in isolation, do things that you usually don't have time for. Keep a daily routine and stay in touch with family and friends. And most of all, remember that the quarantine will end one day.
Such strict and extensive quarantines are also being enforced across mainland China. The number of COVID cases in mainland China has increased by more than 2,000 today. Shenzhen has ended a 7-day full lockdown yesterday. That means all economic production and public transport are back to normal, and more than 12 million residents there can breathe fresh air once again.
China has banned non-citizens from entering the country since March 2020. But for Chinese people heading towards back home, it is a tough journey. Circle's Sun and Judy Chui have this report.
Liana Qian is in a 21-day quarantine in a hotel in Beijing. She simply can't sleep.
I can keep my eyes open until 6 o'clock in the morning. And even though I know I have to sleep and rest because I have online courses and homework in the next day, but I cannot. Therefore, I have a day and night reverse for a while, and I keep putting myself in the dark and crying.
Liana returned to mainland China from Hong Kong recently. Weeks of quarantine are compulsory for all inbound travelers. The duration depends on your destination, a minimum of 2 weeks, but it can be as long as a month. During quarantine, these are literally the only humans you see, people who deliver your meals 3 times a day. A study published in the European Archives of Psychiatry and Clinical Neuroscience last year said that people under quarantine are at heightened risk of mental health problems, such as depression, anxiety, stress-related disorder, and anger, especially if the quarantine lasts more than a week. For Liana, this is her 3rd quarantine since the start of the pandemic, twice in mainland, once in Hong Kong.
And I tried to call the doctor for help, but my condition did not improve, and they did not really help me. So I went to the hospital after the quarantine ended, and I was tested for the depression.
Dr. Wang Shuai is a counselor at the Weihai Mental Health Center. People in isolation have to face loneliness, which can cause anxiety and fear. They also fear the disease and worry about the incubation of virus. They may worry about the disease spreading, the health of their families, and cyberbullying. The problems, he said, are often worse in children, elderly people with health problems, health care workers, and those on a low income. First, stress relief varies from person to person, and everyone has his or her way to relax, such as exercising, reading. Second, find a rhythm. Keep a regular schedule wherever you are, because hormones are related to the circadian rhythm. Third, keep the room neat and clean, because a poor environment can have a negative effect. Many quarantine hotels in China have psychologists nowadays. If worse comes to worse, call them.
Schools and colleges here in Hong Kong have gone online since early February. Hey, Lokman, how are these online classes going for you?
It really just isn't the same learning experience. For instance, this class where we've been working together as a team in our studio on campus, but instead we're just talking to a computer at home.
Now, while universities were not going back to in-person learning at all this semester, primary and secondary schools are expected to be back on their campuses right after Easter. But online learning has been on and off here in Hong Kong since the end of 2019. First was social movement, and then the pandemic.
Tracy Leung and Carmen Lee take a look at the impact of mental health on young people.
A survey conducted by the Federation of Youth Groups in Hong Kong in November last year found that more than half of 3,600 people they studied showed signs of mental illness. Those include difficulty in concentrating, unable to sleep well, and general anxiety. According to MindHK, an NGO that specializes in mental health, an estimated 1 in 7 people in Hong Kong will experience a common mental disorder at any given time, but 3/4 of them will not seek professional help. The data for young people is worrying. More than 40,000 people needed child or adolescent psychiatric help in 2019 to 2020. That's a 1.5 time increase over the past decade.
在學嘅，讀緊中學嘅，係啦，咁佢可能因為情緒、精神嘅狀況影響咗佢讀書，佢可能本身有一間 banding 唔錯嘅學校，咁佢就要轉去一間可能相對功課壓力冇咁大，可能中間嘅一啲 struggle 啦，講緊係喺學業嘅需要大少少嘅，啲可能係因為家庭嗰方面，可能同屋企人嘅一啲相處，可能佢已經讀緊大專嘅，為住自己嘅一啲出路啊等等，係啦，可能唔同嘅一啲社會環境啊，咁佢會有唔同嘅一啲咧不確定性啦，係啦。咁另外有啲就係因為細個嘅時候求學階段啦，精神狀況影響咗，咁佢之後佢冇繼續升學，可能多啲時間留咗喺屋企，咁時間耐咗啦，呢個狀況要改變嘅話，對於佢嚟講又係都幾困難。
MindHK says schools often don't have enough counselors to help those in need. Social workers at family or community centers are often overworked or understaffed. MindHK says mental illness often carries a stigma in Hong Kong. They may feel shame and disapproved.
好多社會嘅大眾或者係其他嘅身邊嘅人啦，佢哋就會覺得啊，其實你有精神問題係咪即係你就係變咗俗語所講嘅黐線啊咁樣，咁佢哋就會因為呢一啲嘅 labeling 啦，咁樣嘅標籤咧，就算佢真係可能佢鼓起咗好大嘅勇氣，佢去揾一啲精神科嘅醫生啦，或者係其他心理學家輔導員啊等等，佢去傾偈嘅時候，可能去到中間。治療中途嘅時候，佢因為某啲嘅可能朋輩上嘅影響啦，或者係社會上面嘅污名嘅壓力咧，其實有可能都會影響咗佢嗰個康復嘅過程嘅。
MindHK has produced some videos to help people struggling with mental health. Their advice: if you feel trouble, talk to someone you trust.
最緊要就係我哋個情緒起伏其實好平常，仲要而家睇新聞。係啦，我估個情緒都真係有影響，我哋都要肯定下，就係有時都係正常嘅反應嚟嘅。
For people who already have mental health issues, the pandemic has been especially testing. They often cannot get the help they need.
Gigi Chong and I report on the impact on people with eating disorders.
Katie Law is recovering from bulimia. While the epidemic has caused mental health issues for many people, it has actually helped Katie to recover.
疫情期間咧，其實好簡單，因為我自己個 habit 就係我會落街去買嘢食，我會喺街度攞住個袋嚟吹吐，變相有個口罩嘅時候咧，我的確係某程度上會限制咗我去做呢樣嘢啦。我冇咁容易除低口罩喺當街食嘢啦，都冇咁容易話隨街都嘔咁啊！大家都對於清潔呢樣嘢注重咗啦，咁我自己都慢慢因為呢樣嘢真係少咗喺街上面暴食。
But Katie may be one of the lucky few. According to data from the Hong Kong Eating Disorder Association, or HEDA, illnesses such as anorexia and bulimia are on the rise, from 130 cases in 2018 to more than 200 in 2021. Disruptions as a result of the pandemic have made it tougher for eating disorder sufferers.
特別係一班 bulimia 或者係 anorexia 嘅朋友仔都係啦，佢哋冇得去做運動，冇得去做 gym， 係啦，可能係冇得去出去跑。其實對佢嚟講咧，佢哋係好辛苦，因為呢個亦就係佢哋有病嘅時候一個佢哋覺得 compulsory。佢哋一定要做嘅嘢，唔做其實會好唔舒服，會好擔心，好驚嘅。
The association has cancelled all of its face-to-face counselling services since January, so help often comes from friends and families instead. But they often do not know what the patients need.
咁呢樣嘢某程度上都會 stress me out 咗，即係我覺得點解我好似幫唔到佢咁樣嘅咧？
雖然
我知道佢患嘅呢一種 eating disorder 係咩啦，但係可能我唔可以即時去諗到有啲咩 solution 去幫佢咁樣。
HEDA has published a set of guidelines for carers of people with eating disorders. They suggest that patients must be closely monitored for any signs of changes in eating habits and emotions.
Lokman Yun
and Gigi Chong report.
Hey, Lokman, what are some of your strategies when you are felt stressed out or overwhelmed?
Well, it is actually a little bit sad, but I mainly sleep and eat. But I do find watching a happy movie, like an animation or a musical, that helps me to relax.
Joanna Yuan and I take a look at how meditation and mindfulness may be helpful if you are under stress.
Those that help you zone out. This is how Zhang Fei de-stretches every day.
声波用它的声音穿刺你的身，躺在这里的时候，你会感觉头皮麻麻的，它会从头顶慢慢的往下渗透，一直到脚活跃起来。这就是为什么每一次我们感觉敲完了以后身体很舒服，然后。
Singing bowl is a type of bell that vibrates and produces a rich, deep tone when played. It has long been used to relieve stress, promote relaxation, and improve sleep. Zhang Fei was inspired by her guru when she visited Nepal 3 years ago. Soon, she made it into a career.
第二点是因为我之前长时间的工作，包括上早班、上夜班来回倒，导致我的生物钟有了偏差，我有神经衰弱。然后上班把自己上晕了，然后我就觉得哎呀不行，我要停下来养生。
A session can involve up to 19 bowls and last for 45 minutes. But if you are looking for something a little more dynamic, try Tai Chi. According to the Chinese Wushu Association, as of 2019, 150 million people around the globe has been practicing Tai Chi. Among them is Yuan Zhihui. He has been engaging in the sport for 15 years.
首先是什么呢？你不仅你治疗心理的情况下，它还有一层是什么？你先锻炼一下，你能不能承受得住这个筋骨力的一些锻炼？你的意志能不能坚持下来？你坚持不下来，可能在你生活当中，你就会无法去面对生活的各种压力。那个时候，你的心理就会很容易崩溃。
Tai Chi involves a series of movements performed in a slow, focused manner and accompanied by deep breathing. Often described as meditation in motion, it promotes serenity and thus improves mood and decreases stress.
我们练功不仅仅是锻炼一个身体，更锻炼是内心的一些情绪。
Joanna Nguyen reported.
And that's all from us here at Hong Kong Public University this year.
We really look forward to coming back to Global News Relay next year and hopefully in a much better circumstances.
Like one of our interviewees said, the pandemic and the quarantine will eventually end. So for now, stay healthy, hopeful, and happy. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And now we're joined by Phoebe and Judy. That was an amazing programme you guys put together, especially under the restrictions you had whilst you were filming. But I hear that COVID restrictions are gradually easing in Hong Kong as the Omicron wave declines. Is that helping to relieve the mental stress that people have been going through?
One of the most stressful things for Hong Kongers is that our borders have been closed to travelers for many months. But since the 1st of April, some of these flights to such as the US, the UK, Australia, and Philippines have resumed. And since then, data according to Expedia shows that online searches for flights have gone up by 90%. And people may finally be able to go on a holiday for the first time in 2 years. There is still a 7 days long quarantine on return, but it's so much better than the previous 3 weeks. And another thing is that staying at home all the time can be really boring and lonely. there was has been a lot of pressure, especially from the business community, on the governments to come up with some kind of a plan to eventually ease these restrictions. So the plan now is to gradually reduce the social distancing measures from mid-April. So I'm really looking forward to hang out with my friends and also going out to restaurants again. And also sports centers and museums, libraries, and also cinemas will reopen at some point.
Wonderful. And Judy, you're in mainland China, and from your report, we know that the country has some of the toughest quarantine restrictions. In Shanghai, for example, the number of cases has been building up in the last week. So what is the impact on people's mental health there?
The number of COVID-19 cases in Shanghai reached more than 20,000 this week, and the city is in lockdown right now. And not only they have to do work from home, no one is allowed out beyond the small districts where they live, and not even to shop for the groceries. And government helpers and deliver food and packages to everyone. But people worried about food supplies right now. On Weibo, a Chinese Twitter-like platform, people said the vegetables delivered by the government are not enough, and they feel anxious about not receiving more food. An influencer who lives in Shanghai said she feels so hungry that she have to eat expired food every day. Also, everyone has to do the COVID test regularly, and some community people have to test every day. They need to go to specific test sites near where they live for testing. And I heard on a popular Chinese social media app, WeChat, some people are saying that in Shanghai, residents have to wait in line for up to 2 hours to get a test. Now I live in Huhat in Inner Mongolia, and it's in the northern part of China. So when I came back to the mainland from Hong Kong 5 weeks ago, I first had to quarantine in Beijing for 3 weeks. And then last week, I come back to Huhat by fast speed train from Beijing. I waited at Huhat station for 4 hours because my second test result hadn't come out yet. So this boring testing routine really makes us become irritable sometimes. And in general, the uncertainty of lockdown affects people's mental health the most, because once there's an outbreak somewhere, it would be a citywide or district lockdown right away. And if it affects people's traveling plans and honestly make everything difficult. And this kind of situation makes people feel a bit negative about the future.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you can meet again for the first time.
Back to the UK now, and the University of the West of England brings music to our ears with their Mind Matters programme.
Hello, welcome to the University of the West of England. I'm Imogen Lapsley.
And I'm Adriana Amor, here with news from Bristol. We're really excited to be taking part in this year's Global News Relay. And hello to everyone around the world.
We're looking closely at mental health this year, the struggles, solutions and stories from those affected.
Earlier this week, I went to a French campus to talk to students who have been using singing as a way to improve their well-being.
Bring me down. Can I bring me down? Your love is too high.
Since September, students and staff at UE have been taking part in All Together Now. The project focuses on increasing the well-being of members through singing. The Centre for Music started the sessions to tackle the isolation and loneliness that the pandemic has caused for students and staff.
People think that the physical things define.
I love running
All Together Now. It's my favourite thing of the week. Because my job is leading the Centre for Music, I don't get to do that much of the direct music making anymore, but this is the one place where I can do that, and for me, using my voice boosts my own mood, so for me, it's the perfect way to start every week on a Monday. I came up with the idea for All Together Now on the basis of my own research interests into music and well-being, and of all the different music activities we might do that can help us support our mood. Singing has been shown to be the most powerful, and in fact, if you were to compare singing to something like cycling or reading, some studies have shown that doing that in a group can increase subjective well-being by up to 40%, where those other activities are down there at 15-20%. So for me, I know how effective and powerful it is, and it's on the basis of that research that we run the group.
But what do the students think of All Together Now? Has the project had a positive impact on them?
Oh, massively. It's the best part of my Monday.
It's very fun.
Yeah, it's been good.
Happy.
We always come out afterwards and like definitely have like a little bit of a glow like afterwards. It's really nice.
When I think about the effect All Together Now has had on its participants, I see their energy and joy on everybody's faces when we finish a session. And of course, our participants tell us about how much enjoyment they're taking. So that is really satisfying. On the other hand, it has been difficult to let people know about the provision and to get a larger group of people to come, which has been hard. Some of that is because we can't run the All Together Now in our normal building at the moment, as there isn't enough space for ventilation requirements. And part of that is still a slight reluctance of people to come back out and do things they might have done before the pandemic. So what I'm hoping is that slowly as we go on, people's confidence will improve, and also word will get out from those that come about how enjoyable it is, so that we can increase our numbers a little bit.
As more students and staff learn about the project, will the group grow in size? Adriana Amo, Bauer News.
I need you more than anyone, darling. You know that I have from the start. So build me up, buttercup. Don't break my heart.
When thinking about mental health, the focus is often on the individual struggling. But how do those who offer support take care of their own well-being?
Molly Crossley went out to speak to a local humanistic counsellor. They discussed how she, as an individual, looks after her own mental health whilst caring for others.
Mental health conditions affect 1 in 4 people in the UK. Conditions like depression, anxiety disorder, and PTSD are among the most common. These conditions can affect people at work, socialising, or when alone, and they can be treated in a range of different ways. One treatment that seems to be unanimous when it comes to treating mental health conditions is talking therapies. But how do those who offer sufferers a safe space to share their fears and traumas look after themselves? I spoke to a counsellor in Bristol to find out more.
I'm a counsellor. I'm a humanistic integrative counsellor. I have a therapist and we meet every week. I think that's really valuable for me to check in with myself. When you're holding space for a lot of different people's well-being, it's paramount that you look after yourself. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, you need to keep yourself well for the job. That is absolutely paramount for the safety of you and your clients. But all of that self-care and all of the costings of that self-care doesn't actually come into your expenses. Mm. So wellness, in however it comes for you, is your own responsibility. And that's where I think it becomes a bit of a privileged profession. You know, it requires time, you know, in excess to be able to monitor your own mental health, supervision, therapy, you know, self-care, and yeah, the money. You know, it requires the finances to be able to do that. Mm. If you're tired and if you're not looking after yourself, your risk of transference is a lot higher, and that's really risky for you and for the client. Mm. I do yoga, having proper lunch breaks, aromatherapy, journaling. Recently they've become practices that are essential for kind of my well-being and for the work. The risk of burnout, the risk of having a short career in this field is high if you can't take care of yourself. Mm. The thing is, when you love what you do and you care about people, which is why you get into a job like this, it is difficult sometimes to not let your passion and enthusiasm overstep your boundaries and to just go, yeah, I'll have 10 clients in a day, I want to see everybody. I think that's the thing I've noticed anyway in the early stages of my practice, was boundaries were a little bit more wobbly because my enthusiasm, my passion was just triumphant. When you're self-employed as a therapist, you need to be your own boss and your own best friend and the pioneer of your own well-being.
This is Molly Crossley, Bauer News, Bristol.
And that's it from the University of the West of England. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Now we're joined by UWE student Adriana. So Adriana, you made the package on mental health. What do you think about how music can help your mental health?
Well, there's been research that has proven that music is able to help, listening to music and playing music can help with anxiety, and also when the activity is done with other people, it can help with strengthen the social bonds between them, which is something has also been shown, and research done in UWE has also shown that music and specifically singing can help a lot, up to 40% with the subjective well-being of the person. So like music after the pandemic has been really helpful in helping people with their mental health and with dealing with isolation. And actually in UWE, they've actually taken this research to do an initiative of a project of scheme called All Together Now, which is a singing group that helps students and staff with their mental health and with getting out of isolation and socializing again in a comfortable environment through singing.
Well, that sounds like a really great initiative. Yeah, so personally, do you enjoy music yourself?
Yeah, I quite enjoy it. It's usually a good way to help me relax and de-stress. Like I have tried to learn a few instruments, and especially the drums have helped me relax and help with my self-confidence and to just de-stress from like my studies and everyday life.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to all the UWE team for putting together such a wonderful programme for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's cross over to Chennai in India and hear from students at the Asian College of Journalism.
Hello and welcome to the Asian College of Journalism segment of the Global News Relay 2022. We are reporting from Chennai, and I'm your host Sridhar Krishnakumar.
And I am Sukhmani. Globally, India has one of the most prevalent rates of mental illnesses. About 14% of the total 1.4 billion population of the country requires active mental health interventions.
With a lack of awareness and due work in this field, an honest picture of the ground reality of mental health is hard to paint in India. Today, our reporters bring you stories ranging from grief to rehabilitation, offering us a primary perspective into the mindset of those afflicted.
In light of the pandemic, all institutions in India shut down, forcing people to work from home. This, along with other causes, created a significant impact on people's mental health in the country. Our correspondent Samiksha Sharma has gone on ground to get a better sense of the general perception on mental health, especially amidst the pandemic. A psychologist from Mind Zone, a mental health organization in Chennai, shares a few thoughts about the types of cases he has worked on in these trying times.
My name is Abdul Rahman. I'm studying tourism 3 years course.
My studies went in lockdown only. So in that 2 years, I don't know what I studied, and again that offline classes will came. So I'm just stuck in my studies. What I'm going to do in future. So I'm just thinking about my futures in now.
So most of the clients who visits Mind Zone nowadays, the adults, especially the office goers, comes with the problem of sleep issues, anxiety and depression, mainly due to their change of patterns. Because most of the people during the pandemic time, they sleep very late or they eat during the odd time. The entire system or the entire rhythm have been changed. Most of the people are getting into a depression and anxiety, and some people have been increased their substance abuse also. So these are all the pandemic related impact is happening, and for each strata, for a male or a female or a child or a old age, so everyone is affected by this. So especially during this post-pandemic, there is a sharp increase in our client aspect also. Especially with the kids, they are coming out with the academic problems. Younger kids, they have a lot of problems with the speech issues because they are not exposed to the outer world for the past 2 to 3 years. So they, especially the age 2 to 5, that age group, most of them are poor stimulation because most of them have no avenues to interact with the other peer groups or with the relatives or with the other people.
So for like 9th, we had like full of online actually school, and then they suddenly come and tell us the finals is online. And offline. Even for our 10th, offline. Even for our board exams are like offline, but we studied online. So it's very
basically
tough.
Your routine is fixed. Like it's like from home, attending online, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you're supposed to come offline and you write your exam. It's totally messed up.
Frankly speaking, this pandemic didn't affect our mental health that much. For others, they say it affected, but I don't think it affected that much for us because everything was online. So there was no tension of work and all. Work was going smoothly. So yeah.
It's like playing PUBG and asking you to join army, which is not easy. Not easy.
We go to Kurukshetra for our next story. Our correspondent Diya Kakar visits a clinic that has been helping women with breast cancer deal with the loss of an integral part of their bodies. In the process, the institution is helping them to regain their self-confidence. Let's head to Haryana for the story.
There is so much focus on the early detection of breast cancer that we don't spend even some time to talk about the mental impact the diagnosis of breast cancer has on a woman. Patients with breast cancer can experience a number of emotions like stress, anxiety, and fear. But imagine a woman losing a part of her body that defines her femininity. So the ABC Hospital in Kurukshetra and Dr. Saloni Manchanda have been able to give that confidence and body esteem back to these women.
Okay, so I'm a breast oncoplastic surgeon. That defines to, obviously I'm looking to all the breast diseases that are available that people face. But apart with that, I'm a surgeon also, and that too an oncoplastic surgeon. So oncoplasty implies to that it is onco means the cancer part and plasty means the reconstruction part. So basically what we do is that if somebody has a breast cancer and it is an early stage cancer, then we remove just a part of that cancer from the body and then reconstructing that cavity which is created after removing of that tumorous part. So we reconstruct that cavity using some other body parts, maybe local fat of the female, local musculature of the female.
Cancer can definitely break people, but some women really show a fighting spirit and fight off the disease with courage. And such has been Sugandha Sudha.
Definitely, getting a body part removed, it's such a big thing. And, this is one body part which defines you if you are a female or a male, which is seen. So definitely it was a big thing. But then I had around 4 or 5 months, I kept preparing my mind that, one day this is going to happen. And when it actually happened, when I saw myself in the mirror for the very first time after I got my surgery done, it was difficult. Like, I had tears in my eyes. And like, one of the biggest challenges, even like more than losing the breast, was your hair. I think, going out with a bald head was a bigger challenge for me.
When your partner is going through a fatal disease, it becomes important for the other half to provide that support. And now let's get to know how Sugandha's husband stood up with her.
First of all, she's actually a person who doesn't need any kind of mental support. But yeah, I have tried to be there in her every chemo, and we used to visit temple after every chemo, and I think because her kids are very small, so this is one thing which has actually motivated her.
It is okay to be vulnerable and take care of your needs. After all, self-care isn't selfish. It can make you a fighter and a survivor.
Sukhmani, it's unfortunate that despite its prevalence, mental illnesses are still a taboo subject in India.
Yeah, that's true. But I do think that stories like these provide a ray of hope for people in this country. The Institute of Mental Health Chennai has been training patients in various sports such as shot put and long jump. Through practices like these, rehabilitation and overall wellness of patients seem to be improving. The objective of this program is to pave the way for them to participate in events such as the Super Olympics. Our correspondent Shivam Verma brings us this report.
The Institute of Mental Health in Chennai is 225 years old and is one of the oldest and largest mental hospitals in Asia. The institute is currently training mental health patients in sports. The objective is to pave the way for them to get trained and go on to take part in sports events such as the Special Olympics. The patients start the day with basic warm-up and running exercises, which is then followed by practicing various sports and meditation. Director of the institute, Dr. Poorna Chandrika, aims to make these patients feel motivated and encouraged with the help of sports. She believes that physical activity in any form is beneficial, and this will lead to an active and healthy lifestyle for the patients.
When you do something which you enjoy, you are going to be at peace with yourself and it de-stresses you immediately. Be it considering us, be it a badminton, a game of badminton, a tennis or whatever it is. In the same way, these patients, as I told earlier, we see a complete transformation. See, the patient cannot even be taken out and taken out to the streets, into the community itself earlier, because she used to be so aggressive. But now she's asking us, where can I keep my medal in the ward? I want a space for it. So everyone is like, and the patients are now known by their medals they brought. They are saying as medal Lata, medal Amuda. We want a gold medal. So this is how, and it transforms them. They are so happy. They are saying, oh, apart from these activities, let me also go and practice. Let me also go and run.
Under the shade of the trees, a group of men and women start to train in shot put. The candidates eagerly wait for their turn as their instructor shows them how to hold the ball and make a throw. Every throw is applauded, which motivates these patients to do even better. This all started when Jyoti Manikandan pitched the idea to identify and train residents. Manikandan had previously participated in paracycling events at the International Wheelchair and Amputee Sports Federation World Games. He believes that patients who have improved with treatment have good chances of getting selected for sports events and probably the Special Olympics. The most energetic and surprising among all is 62-year-old Amudha. Her will to do more at this age is also a motivation for other patients to perform well and compete with their counterparts on a global stage.
Manas is an institute in Chennai that shelters homeless people dealing with mental illnesses. Our correspondent Isha Mishra explores the living conditions of the residents at the shelter.
Manasu is an NGO located amongst the undiscovered lanes of Tirusulam Hills in Chennai. The NGO has been home to wandering men suffering from mental illnesses since 2010. The NGO spots the shelterless with the help of locals and the police. Then, they attempt to counsel and rehabilitate them.
We start with a 5R. One is recovery. Before that, rescue. We have to rescue the patient, the inmate from the outside, the roadside, those who are wandering in the roadside with mental illness. So first we rescue, then we recover, then rehabilitate, then reintegrate with family, then reach out. These are the 5 R's we are doing here.
There are